A high school sophomore girl returned home after school and went to her room to rest. Shortly after, an unidentified man broke in, and the girl met a tragic fate. Due to insufficient clues, the case became difficult to solve, and for over a decade, there was no progress. This case had a significant impact and became one of Japan's most famous unsolved mysteries, garnering widespread public attention. It is known as the 2004 Hiroshima Prefecture high school girl incident. The incident took place in Hiroshima Prefecture, located in the southwestern part of Japan's Honshu Island, bordering the Seto Inland Sea. Hiroshima is rich in natural resources, including mountains and seas, and is known for its thriving agriculture and fishing industries. It is often considered a microcosm of Japan. In the southwestern part of Hiroshima Prefecture lies Hatsukaichi City, a small city with a population of 110,000. Hatsukaichi is an important timber port and is known for Itsukushima Shrine on Miyajima Island. The name Hatsukaichi combines Hatsuka, meaning 20, and Ichi, meaning market. It originated during the Kamakura period, when a market was held here on the 20th of each month. Over time, the area became known as Hatsukaichi City, reflecting its historical roots as a market town. The story we're about to tell took place here. The protagonist of the story is Kitaguchi Satomi, a 17-year-old second-year student at Hatsukaichi City High School. Satomi lived in the Kamihiraya area of Hatsukaichi City. Her family's house was a split-style building. The left side was a single-story main house, and the right side was a two-story annex, with the interiors connected. Satomi's family consisted of 5 members: her father, mother, grandmother, herself, and her younger sister. Satomi's father had her after 5 years of marriage, so he doted on her immensely. Later, Satomi gained a younger sister, and the family lived happily together. However, on a day in October 2004, disaster struck. What exactly happened that day, and what misfortune befell Satomi? Let's rewind to October 5th, 2004. On October 5th, 2004, a Tuesday, Satomi left home early in the morning, as usual, riding her bicycle to school. This day was special because it was an exam day, so she didn't need to stay at school all day. Satomi only had exams in the morning, and there were no classes in the afternoon. After finishing her exams at noon, Satomi prepared to go home, so she left school 3 hours earlier than usual. Since it was a weekday, there were very few pedestrians on her way home. By 1 p.m., Satomi had returned home. At this time, her parents were at work, and only her grandmother and younger sister were at home, watching TV in the living room on the first floor. Satomi greeted them and then sat down to eat lunch alone. After finishing her meal, Satomi felt sleepy and went to her room to rest. Her room was not in the main house where the living room was located, but in the annex on the second floor. Although the main house and annex were connected, there was still some distance between the living room and Satomi's room. A few hours later, at 5 p.m., Satomi was supposed to leave for her part-time job. So, after returning to her room, she lay down on her bed, listening to music and resting. An hour later, at 3 p.m., her grandmother and younger sister were still engrossed in watching TV in the living room. Suddenly, they heard a piercing scream from the annex. It was clearly Satomi's voice. Alarmed, the grandmother and sister rushed to the second floor to investigate. They reached Satomi's room, where the door was slightly ajar. When they pushed it open, they were horrified by the scene before them. Satomi was lying motionless on the floor beside her bed, covered in blood. Even more terrifying, a strange man was standing next to her. He was around 20 years old, with short hair and a knife in his hand. Seeing this, the grandmother and sister were terrified. The younger sister ran downstairs, dashed out of the house, and hid in a gardening store about 50 meters away. Crying, she repeatedly told the store owner, "My sister has been stabbed. My sister has been stabbed." After the sister fled, the grandmother, trembling with fear, tried to leave as well. The short-haired man, startled by the sudden opening of the door, froze for a few seconds before gripping his knife and stabbing the grandmother 4 times in the back. She collapsed to the ground, and the man fled the house. Although the grandmother had been stabbed multiple times, none of the wounds were fatal. Summoning all her strength, she sat up and tried to save her granddaughter lying beside her, but it was too late. Realizing that her younger granddaughter might also be in danger, the grandmother, clutching her wounds, made her way back to the living room on the first floor, called the police, and then passed out. The police, upon receiving the report, immediately dispatched officers to the scene. Soon, both police cars and ambulances arrived. Upon entering the house, they first found the grandmother lying by the phone on the first floor and rushed her to the hospital. In the bedroom on the second floor, they discovered Satomi lying in a pool of blood with no signs of life. A forensic examination revealed 10 stab wounds on her body, with the fatal wound near her heart. There was no evidence of sexual assault. The police then surveyed the area around Satomi's house. If the perpetrator had fled to the left after the crime, he could have entered nearby houses or escaped via a river. If he had gone to the right, there was a main road where he could have fled in any direction. If anyone had seen the suspect fleeing, it might have helped the investigation, potentially indicating whether the perpetrator was someone Satomi knew. The police began searching for witnesses, conducting door-to-door inquiries in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, since the crime occurred at 3 p.m., there were very few pedestrians, and no one saw anyone fleeing from Satomi's house. This made it difficult for the police to determine the suspect's escape route, complicating the investigation. Satomi's grandmother was rushed to the intensive care unit of a local hospital. Thanks to timely treatment, she miraculously survived. Meanwhile, the investigation at the crime scene continued. The police successfully retrieved fingerprints from an unknown individual at the scene, which did not match any family members. These were likely the suspect's fingerprints. On the floor of Satomi's bedroom, several shoe prints of the same size were found. The police deduced that these were left by the suspect in his haste to escape. Based on the shoe print patterns, they identified the brand and model of the shoes with a size of 26 to 27 centimeters. Additionally, skin flakes were found under Satomi's fingernails, from which male DNA was successfully extracted. It was almost certain that this DNA belonged to the killer. Although the police had these crucial pieces of evidence, solving the case with just these clues was still very challenging. Fortunately, Satomi's sister and grandmother had seen the suspect's face. After questioning, they clearly remembered his appearance. Based on their descriptions, the police successfully created a composite sketch of the man. He had short hair, narrow eyes, noticeable acne on his face, a strong build, was about 165 centimeters tall, and around 20 years old. With the sketch in hand, the Hiroshima police were confident. They believed that once the person in the sketch was identified, combined with the bloodstains, fingerprints, and DNA evidence, they could convict the criminal. The police showed the sketch to Satomi's family, neighbors, classmates, and passersby, hoping someone would recognize him. Unfortunately, no one could identify the man in the sketch, and the case once again reached a dead end. Young Satomi had left this world, leaving her family in immense pain. What made it even more agonizing was that the suspect was never found. No one had seen him. He had vanished without a trace, as if he had evaporated into thin air. Satomi's parents had saved 3 million yen for her future college tuition, but no one could have predicted such a tragedy. Satomi's father was heartbroken and furious, vowing never to forgive the killer. He offered the entire 3 million yen as a reward for any information leading to the suspect. Posters were plastered all over the streets, in crowded areas, and in police stations across the country. More and more people became aware of the high school girl murder case in Hiroshima Prefecture. Despite the limited clues, the Hiroshima police did not give up. Over the next decade, they investigated over 40,000 people. As the years passed, the killer remained at large. Satomi's father even started his own online channel, writing a journal. He updated it almost daily, continuing for over a decade. He wrote about his feelings and shared updates on the case. In those 10 years, he wrote over 4,000 entries. He missed his daughter every day, hoping that one day the killer would be found and justice would be served. 11 years after the crime, the Hiroshima police invited experts from other prefectures and a team of experts from the United States to reinvestigate the case. This team, known as the BAU, Behavioral Analysis Unit, is part of the FBI and specializes in using behavioral science to assist in criminal investigations. The team had helped solve numerous cases. They revisited the crime scene and re-interviewed some neighbors. Through criminal psychology, they concluded that the perpetrator did not initially intend to kill Satomi, but was driven to do so by unforeseen circumstances. Using modern technology, they reconstructed the suspect's appearance 11 years after the crime. Compared to the original sketch, this computer-generated image was closer to the suspect's actual appearance. It is said that the shape of a person's eyes rarely changes with age. However, despite the BAU's assistance, the case still made no progress. Just when everyone thought this decades-old cold case would never be solved, something incredible happened in April 2018. On this day, the Yamaguchi Prefecture Police received a report from an employee of a construction company in Ube City, Yamaguchi Prefecture. The employee claimed that his boss, in a fit of anger, had kicked him hard in the buttocks and requested police intervention. The police arrived at the construction company where the boss, Shikato Manabu, a 35-year-old veteran employee who had worked there for 10 years, had kicked his subordinate due to a work-related dispute. The subordinate, feeling wronged, called the police. By the time the Yamaguchi police arrived, the tension between the two had subsided. However, since a report had been filed, the police followed procedure and took statements from both parties, especially Shikato, who had committed the assault. When the police prepared to take Shikato's fingerprints, he showed clear signs of anxiety and restlessness. Since the incident was a minor altercation with no serious consequences, and after obtaining his colleague's forgiveness, Shikato was allowed to leave after giving his statement. However, the officer who took his statement sensed something was off and reported his suspicions to the Yamaguchi police headquarters. A few days later, the Yamaguchi police headquarters entered Shikato's fingerprints into their database for comparison. To their surprise, the system alerted them the fingerprints matched those found at the scene of the high school girl murder case in Hiroshima Prefecture 14 years earlier. Shikato lived in Ube City, Yamaguchi Prefecture, which borders Hiroshima Prefecture. The distance between Ube City and Hatsukachi City is about 100 kilometers, making it entirely possible for him to have committed the crime. Shikato was 35 years old, meaning he would have been 21 at the time of the crime, matching the description of the suspect provided by Satomi's sister and grandmother. The Yamaguchi police considered Shikato a prime suspect and arrested him, transferring him to the Hiroshima police. Shikato's boss at the construction company was shocked by the news. He described Shikato as a diligent worker who never missed work and had a good attitude. The boss could never have imagined that an employee who had worked for him for 10 years could have committed such a heinous crime. It was a classic case of, you can't judge a book by its cover, and the thought sent shivers down his spine. In March 2020, the trial began. When Shikato was first arrested, he denied any involvement in the crime. However, in court, faced with overwhelming evidence, he finally confessed to the horrific crime he had committed over a decade earlier. His defense lawyer argued for a lighter sentence, claiming that Shikato had no prior relationship with Satomi and that the crime was a result of long-term work-related stress. The defense stated that Shikato had not premeditated the murder, but had acted on impulse, leading to the tragedy. They hoped the court would show leniency. On March 18, 2020, the Hiroshima District Court delivered its verdict. Judge Yamamoto Masanori stated that the perpetrator had been at large for a long time, causing deep pain to the victim's family and having a severe impact on society. The judge ruled that the defendant, Shikato Manabu, was guilty of murder and sentenced him to life imprisonment. With this, one of Japan's most infamous unsolved cases was finally resolved. For Satomi's family, who had endured years of suffering, there was finally some solace. After the trial, Satomi's father wrote in his online journal, "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. The story ends here. Justice was delayed but not denied." To this day, Satomi's father continues to update his online journal. He still feels guilty about his daughter and hopes she can find peace and face life anew. This is surely what Satomi would have wanted. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What's your take on this? Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the way we presented this case, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to hit the like button and share it with others. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss out on our future videos as soon as they go live. See you next time.